crossing the Douqi Continent, becoming the Danwang Ancient River, and obtaining a reward system of 10,000 times for granting disciples. Granting one thing to an apprentice can result in a 10,000-fold return. Ding, you give your disciple Ling the Qinglian Earth Heart Fire, trigger a 10,000-fold return, and obtain the Qinglian Holy Fire. Ding, you can give your disciple the Little Doctor Immortal 7-Colored Poison Classic, trigger a 10,000-fold return, and obtain the Peerless Poison Classic. Ding, you gave your disciple Nailan Yenran 1 month of cultivation, triggering a 1,000-fold return and obtaining 80 years of cultivation. The 3-year agreement has arrived, and Xiao Yan proudly steps onto the Yunyun sect. Xiao Yan, 30 years in the west and 30 years in the east, don't deceive young people into poverty. Nailan Yenran, today I will show you what a true genius is. Nailan Yenran smiled calmly and said, is that so? After speaking, a fighting emperor aura erupted directly. Xiao Yan looked incredulous and said, it's impossible. How could you be a strong fighter against the emperor? Nailan smiled proudly and said, with a master, everything is possible. Keywords of the novel, Do-pa, my disciples are all Dodi's assets without pop-ups, Do-pa, my disciples are all Dodi's assets. Download the complete text, Do-pa, my disciples are all Dodi's assets. Latest chapters for reading. Chapter 1, Rebirth of the Danwang Ancient River, activating the apprenticeship system. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Rebirth of the Danwang Ancient River, activating the apprenticeship system. Douqi Continent. Northwest Region. Yunyun Sect. Danwang Ancient River. In a quaint and exquisite room, a middle-aged man had a complex expression and murmured. I have traveled through the world of breaking through the sky, and have I become the Danwang Ancient River? That's right, the middle-aged man is a traveler from the Blue Star. Just now, he had fully received the memories within his body and also learned about his current identity. This is a world that breaks through the sky. In his past life, he was a fan of online literature and could pursue a novel without sleep for several days and nights. And this time, he was reading a harem novel and fought all night for 3, eventually dying suddenly on the spot. After waking up, I found that I had crossed and even become the Danwang Ancient River in the sky. Once you come, please settle down. From now on, I will be the Danwang Ancient River, said the Ancient River calmly in the room, after integrating all memories. He has read the novel, Do-pa Tsang Chi no less than 3 times, and he still remembers the plot very clearly. He also felt a bit regretful about the fate of the Danwang Ancient River. To describe Guhi's life in one sentence, it is the first half of his life was brilliant, and the second half was desolate. Guhi won the first place in the Gamma Empire Alchemy Conference at a young age and became an honorary elder of Yunyun sect after being recruited by Yunyun sect. With the abundant support of Yunyun sect's resources, the ancient river was like a fish in water, and the skill of refining medicine traveled thousands of miles in a day. In just 10 years, he became a 6th-grade alchemist, and his cultivation also reached the realm of Dawang. People say, Danwang Guhi. He is also the first alchemist of the Gamma Empire. This is the most brilliant and shining moment of the ancient river. However, when the protagonist Xiao Yan appeared, the light of the ancient river was completely obscured. Yihua's beard was cut off by Xiao Yan. The woman she liked also fell in love with Xiao Yan, but on her wedding day, she was destroyed by Xiao Yan. In the end, even the proud alchemy lost to Xiao Yan. It has to be said that in front of Xiao Yan, Guhi was a complete failure. No way. Absolutely not. Since I have traveled through time, I must change my fate. Thinking of his own fate in the original work, Guhi's eyes showed a resolute expression. This time, I absolutely cannot be stepped on by Xiao Yan. Ding, the 10,000 times return system has been awakened. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a beginner's gift pack. May I ask if the host has opened the beginner's gift package? At this moment, a gentle female voice suddenly rang out in Guhi's mind. System. Upon hearing the voice in his mind, Guhi was momentarily taken aback, and then suddenly realized it. Is this your own golden finger? That's right, as a traveler, how can one not have a golden finger? Guhi looked ecstatic and quickly asked, System, can you explain what role you have? At the moment when Guhi's words fell, I felt a surge of information pouring into my mind. After a moment, the ancient river had already understood the role of the system. The 10,000-fold return system for apprentices, as the name suggests, is a system for mentors and apprentices. Regardless of what one grants to their disciple, the system return mechanism can be triggered. And this return multiple is random. Maybe twice. It could also be 10 times, 100 times. Even 1,000 times, 1,000 times. However, this apprenticeship system also has several limitations. Firstly, each disciple can only trigger the system's 10,000-fold return mechanism 3 times within a month. Secondly, the items returned by the system cannot trigger the system's 10,000-fold return mechanism. Thirdly, the host's disciples must reach the system's 8-point rating in order to trigger the return mechanism. These 3 restrictions in the system are clearly limiting oneself and preventing one from getting stuck with bugs. Can I be that kind of person? Guhi thought silently. However, even with these 3 restrictions added, the effect of this apprenticeship system is still extremely terrifying. Guhi believes that with this apprenticeship system, he can definitely change his own destiny. Later, Guhi suddenly realized that he still had a beginner's gift package that he hadn't opened. Without hesitation, he said, System, open the beginner's gift package. Ding, congratulations to the host for successfully opening the beginner's gift pack. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the divine power top-up. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the immortal temperament. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the 7 Orifices Ling pill heart. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the divine power void projection. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining a 9-star Douqi experience card. Upon hearing the series of prompt sounds from the system, Guhi couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Unexpectedly, this new gift package is so awesome. I've given so many good things. The above items have been distributed to the system space. Please pay attention to checking them, the gentle female voice said and immediately immersed herself. Looking at the treasures in the system space, Guhi took a deep breath and barely calmed down. System, extract divine powers top up. In the next moment, Guhi said directly to the system. With the sound of Guhi's words falling, a spiritual light suddenly entered his mind. In an instant, Guhi received a mysterious message in his mind, which was the cultivation method and realization of the top divine power. After a moment, Guhi slowly opened his eyes, with a hint of excitement flashing in them. This top-notch power is really too strong. As long as it is anything that one has mastered, such as martial arts, combat techniques, secret techniques, cultivation insights, etc. Even the cultivation of fighting spirit can be directly passed on to disciples using the power of empowerment. Guhi's eyes were filled with excitement, and this power of empowerment was simply tailored for himself. The combination of empowerment and apprenticeship system is definitely a perfect match. Guhi smiled on his face and then continued to gaze towards the system space. System, extract the temperament of exiled immortals. As soon as the words fell, Guhi felt a mysterious force enveloping his entire body. It feels warm and very comfortable. Meanwhile, Guhi also felt that his body was undergoing microsecond changes. The skin on the surface of the body appears a layer of radiance, becoming incredibly fair, like jade. Moreover, the face and figure of Guhi have undergone subtle changes under the transformation of this mysterious power. The ancient river, which was already extraordinary in appearance, has become more delicate in facial features and has a more perfect body proportion. After a moment, the anomaly that occurred on the ancient river slowly came to an end. Gu He walked curiously to a mirror in the room and looked at himself in the mirror. At that moment, a hint of amazement flashed in Gu He's eyes. I saw myself in the mirror, with a jade tree facing the wind, handsome and graceful, tall and slender, almost a piece of fat visible all over my body. In addition, he also exuded an ethereal temperament, coupled with his handsome face, as if he had descended from the mortal world. Great! You're so handsome. Looking at himself in the mirror, Gu He couldn't help but become narcissistic. If I were a woman, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to resist marrying myself at all costs. P.S. Recommend a book written by a friend and also a fan of Douqi. Douqi, auction returns 10,000 times, I am invincible. Additionally, I would like to recommend a new book titled, Douqi, Many Children, Many Blessings, I Build the Strongest Family. End of this chapter. Chapter 2, The Exquisite Heart of the Seven Orifices and the Divine Power of Projection from the Heavens. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2, The Exquisite Heart of the Seven Orifices and the Divine Power of Projection from the Heavens. After a moment of narcissism, Gu He reluctantly withdrew his gaze. Subsequently, Gu He refocused his gaze on the interior of the system space. System, extract the seven orifices. Exquisite alchemy. Subsequently, Gu He felt an extremely powerful force rush into his body. This force is extremely domineering, destroying everything it passes through. In the next moment, Gu He felt countless tiny needles shuttle through his blood vessels, converging towards his heart. Ah! Gu He couldn't help but scream, and the intense pain almost made him faint. But at this moment, a mysterious force was breeding within him. Within the ancient river, countless runes emerged, intertwined and eventually transformed into a heart. This heart has 7 orifices, with mysterious patterns appearing every time it beats, and the pounding of the heart is accompanied by the sound of the impact of the dan ding. At this moment, Gu He had some enlightenment in his mind. After a moment, the strange feeling in my body finally disappeared. 7 orifices and exquisite alchemy, extracted. Gu He closed his eyes and slowly realized the wonderful use of this 7 orifices exquisite alchemy. Having a 7 orifices and exquisite alchemy, Gu He will no longer have a bottleneck in alchemy in the future. He was already exceptionally talented in alchemy, and now possessing this alchemy heart is like adding wings to a tiger. It can be said that as long as the ancient river does not fall, it will definitely become a generation of Dan Emperor in the future. Feeling the powerful effect brought by the 7 orifices and exquisite alchemy, Gu He couldn't help but show an excited look in his eyes. With these 7 exquisite alchemy, it is difficult for oneself not to become a strong person. After a moment of excitement, Gu He gradually calmed down and continued to gaze towards the system space. System, extract divine powers void projection. As a mysterious message flooded into his mind, Gu He fell into an epiphany. After a moment, Gu He slowly opened his eyes and a smile appeared in them. Obviously, he has already mastered the wonderful use of void projection. Void projection uses essence and blood to condense the void jade talisman. As long as the jade talisman is crushed, no matter where you are, the ancient river can be directly projected over. The most magical thing is that the power of this projection is the same as that of the ancient river itself. The only drawback is that this projection can only last for half an hour. After mastering the magical power of void projection, the ancient river had already figured out its purpose. In the future, when one's disciples go out for training, Gu He can gather a void jade talisman for them to carry with them. If in danger, simply crush the jade talisman, and the ancient river can be projected over to help the disciple relieve the crisis. What a divine power! Gu He couldn't help but admire in his heart. With this divine ability, we will no longer be afraid of danger for our disciples in the future. Finally, Gu He turned his gaze to the last item in the system space. Do Xing Xiu Wei Experience Card. As the name suggests, as long as you use this card, Gu He can instantly master the power of Douqi. Moreover, he is also a 9-star fighting saint. Of course, this Douqi experience card is a consumption card, and once used, it disappears. Moreover, after using the Douqi experience card, one can only maintain a 9-star Douqi cultivation for half an hour. Therefore, Guha must use this card with absolute caution. The existence of the 9-star Douqi is already the pinnacle of strength in this era where the duty does not emerge. Gu He's eyes showed a look of contemplation. This Douqi experience card would never be used until the moment of life and death. In the future, this Douqi Xiu experience card will be his biggest trump card. System, open the property panel, Gu He said calmly. As Gu He finished speaking, an energy light curtain appeared in front of him that only he could see. Host, Ancient River. Age, 30. Alchemist level, 6th grade alchemist. Cultivation, 3-star fighting king. Skill, Purple Yang technique, earth level intermediate. Soul cultivation method, Dark Soul technique, 7th rank soul power cultivation method. Fighting skills, Flame Palm, Xian level advanced, Flame Eagle Claw, Xian level advanced. Divine power, Capping, Void projection. Physical constitution, Ling Long 7 Orifices and Danqin. Other, Douqi experience card, Purple Eagle Flame, Red Snake Cauldron. Looking at the attribute panel in front of him, Gu He fell into contemplation. Gu He's talent in refining medicine can definitely be considered stunning. Even in the northwest region of the Gamma Empire, he was able to become a 6th grade alchemist at the age of 30. This kind of talent is almost no weaker than that of a medic. You should know that Yao Lao comes from the medicinal family of the 8 ancient families. This race, however, has a profession of refining medicine, and the entire race is composed of alchemists. Yao Lao comes from the pharmacy family, which is the best starting point for an alchemist. Moreover, in the body of the old medicine practitioner, there is still some degree of Douqi bloodline. He was able to become the first alchemist in Zhongzhou, and although his talent was extraordinary, it was not without the blessing of the Dou Emperor's bloodline. Compared to Gu He, Yao Lao can be said to have many innate advantages. Subsequently, Gu He looked at his current cultivation. 3-star fighting king. Compared to his unparalleled talent in refining medicine, Gu He's cultivation talent is slightly inferior. Although it is already rare to achieve the 3-star Danwang achievement at the age of 30. But Gu He was able to reach his current level thanks to his identity as a 6th grade alchemist. As a 6th grade alchemist, he can achieve self-sufficiency. When encountering a bottleneck, simply take medication to solve it. However, even so, Gu He is only a 3-star Dou King, and he is still practicing intermediate level ground level martial arts. Of course, there are also reasons why Gu He was obsessed with refining medicine and had no intention of practicing. After reading his own attribute panel, a smile appeared on Gu He's face. 3-star fighting king. 6th grade alchemist. This kind of opening, although not invincible, is always tens of thousands of times stronger than those useless materials. Gu He is very satisfied with this. The beginning was quite good. The system's golden finger is also available. Next, everything needs to be fought for by oneself. Dong dong dong. Just as the ancient river was soaring with great ambitions, a knock on the door suddenly sounded outside the door. Who? Interrupted from his train of thought, Gu He frowned slightly, feeling somewhat dissatisfied. Master, disciple Lu Ling, please meet me. Outside the door, a slightly green voice sounded, with a very respectful tone. Lu Ling. Upon hearing this, a flash of spiritual light flashed through Gu He's mind. In the original work, there was indeed a disciple named Lu Ling in Guha. When hosting the medicine refiner competition in the Gamma Empire, although his performance was not as good as that of the protagonist Xiao Yan, he was still considered a genius in medicine refining. Come in, Gu He said lightly outside the door, thinking of this. Coincidentally, I want to try the magical effect of topping out. Let's temporarily use this willow feather to test the water today. However, Guhi was a little worried in his heart. The system required that only disciples with a score of 8 could trigger the return mechanism. I just don't know if Lu Ling's talent can meet the requirements of the system. As Guhi finished speaking, the door slowly opened and a young man walked in. The young man was dressed in a set of alchemist robes, and was quite young. He had a tall and straight figure, looking only in his 20s. His handsome face had lines that resembled those of a knife. This young man is the biological disciple of Guhi, Lu Ling. I have seen my master before. After entering the room, Lu Ling bowed to the ancient river and saluted with utmost respect. Linger, there's no need to be too polite, Guhi said with a gentle smile on his face. Upon hearing this, Lu Ling slowly looked up, but when he saw Guhi's face, his expression suddenly froze. Master, you. After any banished immortal temperament, every move of the ancient river at this moment exudes a ethereal and elegant temperament. Therefore, even Lu Ling, who often interacts with Guhi, clearly noticed some differences and now looked at Guhi with some surprise. Master, how did he become so handsome? Looking at the ancient river in front of her, even Lu Ling, who always claimed to be a beautiful man, couldn't help but feel a bit ashamed and embarrassed. Seeing the strange expression on Lu Ling's face, Guhi naturally understood the reason. However, he did not provide any explanation and pretended not to have seen it. The main purpose of banishing immortals is to change one's own temperament, and one's appearance has only been slightly adjusted, without much change. Therefore, Guhi doesn't have to worry about Lu Ling doubting his identity. Linger, do you have something to do with finding a teacher? After thinking for a moment, Guhi smiled and directly changed the topic. Upon hearing these words, Lu Ling immediately regained her senses and looked at Guhi before respectfully saying, "Report to Master, the disciple has already broken through to the realm of a second-grade alchemist." Speaking of which, Lu Ling couldn't help but smile at the corner of her mouth, and a hint of pride flashed in her eyes. At the age of only 15, he reached the level of a second-grade alchemist. Such achievements are almost unmatched in the entire Gamma Empire, except for his own master Guhi. Very good. Upon hearing this, Guhi spoke up and praised. System, check Lu Ling's attributes. In secret, Guhi communicated with the system. He wants to see if Lu Ling can achieve the 8-point rating required by the system. As soon as Guhi finished speaking, a light curtain appeared before his eyes that only he could see himself. Push book, do pa, let you be an undercover, you marry the empress of an enemy country. Crossing the Douqi Continent, Lin Mo became the prince sent by the Cloud Empire to undercover and enhance the empire's power, and became the guard of the Long Princess Yaoye. The system awakened, and as long as he made physical contact with a woman of high status, he could receive rich rewards. Suddenly, Lin Mo set his sights on the cold and charming Long Princess Yaoye, who was protruding in the front and curling in the back. End of this chapter. Chapter 3, Passing Merit to the Top. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3, Passing Merit to the Top. First Disciple, Lu Ling. Understanding, 7.5. Root Bone, 7.5. Fortune, 8+1, becoming the host disciple at the beginning, Fortune +1. Medicine Refiner Realm, 2nd rank Medicine Refiner. Cultivation, 2-star Fighter. Skill, Liang Ju, Xuanjia Advanced. Fighting Skill, Yenyang Finger, Xian Level Intermediate. Looking at Lu Ling's attribute panel, Guhi looked a bit strange. Lu Ling's intelligence and foundation are only 7.5, and her fortune is barely up to standard. But Guhi didn't expect that after becoming his disciple, he could still have additional points. However, it's also true that I am a traveler and have a system nearby. The most important thing is that you still carry the apprenticeship system with you. As long as you worship yourself as your teacher, you will definitely become a strong individual in the future. It is reasonable to add 1 point to this fortune. With this score, Lu Ling's rating can just reach 8 points, which can be considered as triggering the system's return mechanism. Master. What's wrong with you? In the room, Lu Ling saw Gu He looking at her silently and immediately felt a little puzzled. A hint of embarrassment flashed on Gu He's face, and he quickly regained his composure. He pondered, I was just thinking about how to reward you, master. Rewards? Upon hearing these words, Lu Ling's expression froze for a moment and she wondered, Master, what reward? If you break through to become a second-level alchemist, I will naturally reward you as a teacher, Gu He said with a smile on his face. Ah! Is there a reward for breaking through? Upon hearing this, a hint of surprise flashed in Lu Ling's eyes. Surprisingly, a second-level alchemist would receive a reward. Not bad, this can also be considered as a kind of motivation for you. Gu He smiled and said, in the future, whether you have made breakthroughs in refining medicine or cultivating fighting spirit, you will be rewarded as a teacher. Upon hearing this, Lu Ling's eyes flickered with excitement, and her passion for cultivation grew even higher. Thank you, master, disciple, she said. Linger, come here, I will teach you a soul power cultivation secret skill. Practicing this skill can enhance your soul power, Gu He waved at Lu Ling and said. Soul power cultivation secret technique. Upon hearing these words, Lu Ling's mind suddenly shook. How could my master be willing to teach me the secret technique of soul power cultivation? You should know that for an alchemist, the most important thing is the strength of soul power. For example, Lu Ling has now broken through to become a second-level alchemist. But in order to break through to the realm of a third-grade alchemist, his soul power must meet the standards of a third-grade alchemist. The strength of soul power will increase with the increase of Douqi cultivation. But there is another way, which is to cultivate the secret method of soul power. For Lu Ling, as an alchemist, he spends very little time practicing Douqi on a daily basis, so he naturally tends to cultivate soul power secrets to enhance his soul power. But the soul power secret method is so precious that it cannot be obtained by a second-grade alchemist like Lu Ling. Lu Ling has always hoped to obtain a soul power cultivation secret technique in her heart. Now that he heard that Gu He was willing to teach him, he was naturally overjoyed and immediately came to Gu He's body. Linger, squat down. Gu He smiled and said, looking at Lu Ling with an excited expression in front of him. The Dark Soul Technique, a 7th-grade soul power cultivation method, was obtained by Gu He at an ancient relic when he was young. He was able to achieve his current level of achievement not only because of his own talent and hard work, but also because this 7th-grade soul power cultivation secret technique played a significant role. Even if anything given to the disciple can be returned, Gu He naturally has to choose his most important thing. Upon hearing Gu He's words, Lu Ling felt a bit puzzled, but he had great trust in Gu He and obediently followed suit. Upon seeing this, Gu He no longer hesitated. He slowly placed his right palm on Lu Ling's head and said solemnly, Linger, close your eyes and concentrate. Upon hearing these words, Lu Ling naturally followed them one by one. Upon seeing this, Gu He directly unleashed the power of empowerment, and then bestowed the 7th-level soul power cultivation secret of the Dark Soul Technique to Lu Ling. At the same time, while Lu Ling was wondering about Gu He's strange behavior, she suddenly felt a mysterious message in her mind. At present, he didn't have time to think much and could only follow Gu He's instructions, concentrate quietly, and gradually absorb this mysterious information. After a moment, Gu He had already infused all the content and cultivation experience of the Dark Soul Technique into Lu Ling. Lu Ling closed her eyes tightly, constantly absorbing and fusing the information in her mind, and finally perfectly blending it together. The Dark Soul Technique. 7-level soul power cultivation secret method. In the end, Lu Ling learned the name and grade of the soul power cultivation method passed down to him by Gu He. At the same time, a system prompt sound also sounded in Gu He's mind. Ding, it has been detected that the host has awarded the disciple Lu Ling's 7th-level martial arts technique, the Dark Soul Technique. Congratulations to the host for triggering a 10,000-fold return and obtaining the Emperor's Soul Devouring Technique. The Emperor's Soul Devouring Technique has been distributed to the system space. Please check it carefully, host. As the sound of the system resounds in the mind. He was stunned. After he reacted, a hint of ecstasy appeared on his face. Emperor's product. He didn't hear it wrong. Teach a 7th level Dark Soul Technique, and surprisingly obtain an Emperor level technique, Soul Devouring Technique. With a movement of his mind, he directly immersed his consciousness into the system space. In the system space, a black scroll was suspended in the void, emitting a strange light. Does the host accept the inheritance of the Soul Devouring Technique? When Guhi's consciousness came into contact with the black scroll, a system prompt sounded in his mind. Upon hearing this, Guhi was about to agree, but suddenly realized that Lu Ling was still in charge. If there is any abnormality in accepting the inheritance of Soul Devouring Technique, it may be a bit inappropriate for Lu Ling to see it. Thinking of this, Guhi consciousness quickly exited the system space and immediately turned his gaze to Lu Ling, who was squatting in front of him. At this moment, Lu Ling has almost completely received the information of the ancient river filling. When I learned that the soul power cultivation secret taught by Guhi was the 7th grade technique, the Dark Soul Technique, I couldn't help but open my eyes. Excitement flickered in her pitch-black eyes, and as soon as Lu Ling opened her eyes, she saw Guhi with a smiling face. Without any hesitation, Lu Ling knelt down directly in front of Guhi, his tone extremely sincere. Thank you, Master, for giving me such divine skills. It's not surprising that Lu Ling made such a move. Just because the Dark Soul Technique passed to him by the ancient river was too shocking for him. This is a 7th grade soul power cultivation technique. Practicing to the extreme can lead to the existence of a 7th grade alchemist. Even some 6th grade alchemists may not be able to possess such techniques. But Lu Ling is just a 2nd level alchemist, and surprisingly, he has obtained a 7th level skill. This really shocked him. It's just a cultivation method. If you personally pass it on to my disciple, this cultivation method will also be passed on to you sooner or later. I'm just sending it to you a little earlier. Liu Ling's mood at this moment can be fully felt by Guha. Because he is also in this mood at this moment. An imperial cultivation technique is enough to excite him immensely. Master's great kindness, disciples really have nothing to repay. Upon hearing this, Lu Ling was extremely grateful to Guhi in her heart. Alright, don't be grateful for now. The reward for being a teacher hasn't ended yet. Guhi reached out and touched Lu Ling's head, smiling gently. It's not over yet. Does Master still want to reward me? Upon hearing this, Lu Ling's expression became somewhat dull. Today's Master is too generous, isn't he? Don't daydream. Guhi patted Lu Ling's head and reminded her. Yes, Master. Upon hearing this, Lu Ling obediently squatted down and slowly closed her eyes. Guhi slowly extended his right palm and directly imprinted it on the back of Lu Ling. Lu Ling was puzzled when she suddenly felt a huge force entering her body. Lu Ling's face changed. What is Master doing? Concentrate and absorb this power. Suddenly, Guhi's voice rang out. Without time to think, Lu Ling could only follow suit and concentrate on receiving this power. After a moment, Lu Ling suddenly made a muffled sound inside her body, and her breath also changed accordingly. Breaking through, Lu Ling's cultivation level directly went from a 2-star fighter to a 3-star fighter. However, this is not over yet, and the strength inside him continues to increase. After another moment, Lu Ling's breath changed again. 4-star fighter. Lu Ling's handsome face was already covered in sweat, looking a bit pale. Obviously, the process of receiving power is not easy either. Bang! After another moment, Lu Ling broke through directly to the strength of the 5-star Do. Master, I can't hold on anymore. Lu Ling said in a slightly painful voice. Obviously, at this moment, he has reached his limit. Upon hearing this, a hint of disappointment flashed in Guhi's eyes, but he also knew that this matter should not be taken too hastily. Excessive transmission of power may cause great damage to Lu Ling's body. Thinking of this, Guhi's mind moved and he stopped transmitting his skills. At the same time, Guhi's mind also heard a system prompt sound. Ding, it has been detected that the host has granted the eldest disciple Lu Ling a 7-day cultivation. Congratulations to the host for triggering a 1,000-fold return and obtaining 19 years of cultivation. Note, these 19 years of cultivation correspond to the 3-star Do King. The 19-year cultivation has been distributed to the system space. Please pay attention to check it. 1,000 times refund. 19 years of cultivation. Upon hearing the sound of the system, Guhi's spirit was shaken. 7 days of cultivation earned 19 years of cultivation, and this business is really worth it. At the next moment, Guhi couldn't wait to sink his mind into the system space. In the system space, a purple ball of light is suspended in the void. May I ask if the host accepts 19 years of cultivation? At the moment when Guhi's consciousness came into contact with the purple light sphere, the sound of the system rang out again. Similarly, due to the presence of Lu Ling, Guhi chose not to accept it temporarily. When he realized that he had exited the system space, he found that Lu Ling was kneeling in front of him again. Linger, why did you kneel down again? Guhi saw this and quickly helped Lu Ling up, feeling somewhat helpless. Master treats his disciples with great kindness, passing on the 7th grade cultivation techniques to his disciples, and then passing on the cultivation level to his disciples. The disciples are truly ashamed of Master. Lu Ling looked at Guhi in front of her, her eyes filled with gratitude. If Master treats me like this one day, if I succeed, I will definitely repay Master's great kindness 1,000 times, 1,000 times, Lu Ling secretly swore in her heart. Linger, you are the only disciple of the teacher, and naturally good things will be passed on to you. Seeing Lu Ling's sincere words, Guhi couldn't help but feel a little relieved. As long as you practice hard in the future, go out and promote your reputation as a teacher, it will be considered as a reward for your kindness as a teacher. Guhi patted Lu Ling's shoulder and said earnestly. I swear that I will double my efforts to cultivate and never disappoint my master's high expectations in the future. Upon hearing Guhi's words, Lu Ling's eyes flickered with a hint of determination and she made a promise without hesitation. Okay. He is truly a good disciple of a teacher. Guhi showed admiration in his eyes, thinking of another chance to return it, so he decided to give it all at once. I will also give you a reward as a teacher. Upon hearing this, a hint of shock appeared on Lu Ling's face. Do you still have a reward? Is it a 7th grade martial arts technique, or is it a transmission technique? Having obtained these, Lu Ling felt as if she was dreaming. And Guha actually said he still wants to continue rewarding. Master, you're really being too generous. Guhi smiled slightly, then his mind moved, and a purple flame slowly appeared in his palm. The purple flame appeared in the shape of an eagle, as if one could hear the sound of an eagle chirping. Surrounded by it, strange ripples appeared like waves of water, which looked extremely magical. Linger, as a teacher, I have one final prize, which is the purple eagle flame. Push book, Do Pe, Rebirth of Xiao Zhan, Xiao Yanzi, Fight Dad. Rebirth to become Xiao Zhan, awakening the Pinda system. As long as one's own son provokes an enemy with a higher level than oneself, he can immediately ascend to the same cultivation level as that enemy, and still be in the strongest state of that level. End of this chapter. Chapter 4, Abnormal Fire, 9 Dark Flames. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4, Abnormal Fire, 9 Dark Flames. Master. Isn't this your old man's purple eagle flame? When the ancient river lit up purple flames, Lu Ling immediately widened her eyes. He followed Guha for many years and naturally recognized that this purple flame was the flame used by Guha to refine medicine in his daily life. This purple eagle flame is a strange beast fire, and it was not easy for Guhi to get it back then. Does Master even want to reward me with this purple eagle flame? Thinking of what Guhi had just said, Lu Ling could no longer collapse. Puff. Master, it's impossible. Never do it. You first teach your disciples the 7th grade martial arts, and then pass them on to their cultivation. These disciples alone have no way of repaying you. This purple eagle flame is the flame that Master used to refine medicine himself, and disciples absolutely cannot accept it. This time, Lu Ling went against the norm, kneeling on the ground and refusing to accept it. This purple eagle flame has a miraculous effect on the alchemist. If you accept it yourself, what will the Master do to refine medicine in the future? Thinking of this, Lu Ling refused to accept the purple eagle flame even if she died. Linger, get up first. Seeing Lu Ling kneeling down again, Guhi suddenly felt a headache. This silly guy is pretty good, but his legs are too soft. Kneeling down at any moment, who can bear it? Master, as long as you accept it, the disciples will get up. Lu Ling shook her head, still refusing to accept it. Linger, if you don't get up again, I'll be angry. Seeing that Lu Ling didn't listen to him, Guhi could only put on a strict teacher posture, pretending to be angry. Master. Upon hearing Guhi's words, Lu Ling didn't want to, but she could only stand up obediently. Master, this purple eagle flame disciple really can't accept it. Lu Ling still refused to accept purple eagle flame. Linger, in fact, as a teacher, I have already received news of a strange fire. Seeing that Lu Ling was unwilling, Guhi could only amplify his moves and say, this purple eagle flame will soon be useless to me. If you don't want it, then I will give it to someone else. After speaking, Guhi was ready to retrieve the purple eagle flame from his hand. Upon hearing this, Lu Ling was slightly taken aback. When he realized it, he quickly grabbed Guhi's sleeve. Don't. Master. I was wrong, Master. Lu Ling's originally mournful expression immediately changed to a flattering expression. Master, since you don't need it anymore, let's give it to my disciple. Guhi said with a stern expression, aren't you unwilling to take it? Lu Ling quickly admitted her mistake and said, Master, I was wrong. I want. That's pretty good, Guhi said with a hint of pride in his eyes, and then he stopped holding on to Lu Ling and handed him the purple eagle flame directly. At the same time, in Guhi's mind, the system's prompt sound also slowly sounded. Ding, it has been detected that the host has granted the eldest disciple Lu Ling Beast Fire Purple Eagle Flame. Congratulations to the host for triggering a 10,000-fold return and obtaining the 9 dark flames of strange fire. The 9 dark flames of strange fire has been distributed to the system space. Please check it carefully, host. 10,000 times refund. 9 hidden flames of strange fire. Guhi couldn't help but tremble slightly with his right hand holding purple eagle flame. Thank you, Master, disciple. Lu Ling carefully took the purple eagle flame and thanked Guhi. Go on, quickly refine it. Upon hearing the system prompt in his mind, Guhi couldn't wait to check and immediately drove towards Lu Ling. Yes, that disciple is leaving. Like Guhi's mood, Lu Ling was also eager to refine the purple eagle flame. Upon hearing Guhi's urging, she didn't stop and hurriedly left Guhi's room. After Lu Ling left, Guhi Xianshan couldn't wait to enter the system space. In the system space, in addition to the black scroll and purple light cluster, there is also an additional purple flame. This purple flame is highly spiritual and presents the shape of an immortal bird. This is Joyo Flame. Looking at the purple flames in front of him, Guhi's eyes showed excitement. Abnormal fire is something that every alchemist dreams of, and as an alchemist, Guhi is no exception. Ding, may I ask if the host has started refining the 9 Yunyun? Just as Guhi's consciousness approached Joyo Flame, the sound of the system rang out in his mind. Upon hearing the sound of the system, Guhi was momentarily taken aback and then shook his head. He didn't know if it would be dangerous to rashly merge different fires. Although there was systematic help, Guhi thought it was better to improve his cultivation first for safety reasons. Thinking of this, Guhi immediately turned his gaze to the purple light cluster on the side. System, extract 19 years of cultivation. After pondering for a moment, Guhi ordered directly to the system. With the sound of Guhi's words falling, a huge force suddenly surged out of his body. Not good. Feeling this energy, Guhi's face changed, and then his figure flashed and he arrived at the next alchemy room. At this moment, vast energy has poured into the four limbs and bones of the ancient river. The ancient river forcibly calmed itself down and then operated the purple yang technique to start absorbing this massive energy. After a moment, Guhi's cultivation began to gradually improve. 4-star Fighting King. 5-star Fighting King. 6-star Fighting King. In the alchemy room, the aura on Guhi's body rose step by step, extremely terrifying. Fortunately, the ancient river turned to this alchemy room in time. In order to prevent the furnace from exploding, the walls of this alchemy room were built with many precious materials. At this moment, the sensation caused by the continuous breakthroughs of the ancient river was not enough for outsiders to notice. 7-star Fighting King. 8-star King. 9-star Fighting King. As he continuously absorbs energy from his body, Guhi's cultivation level is still increasing. In the end, Guhi's cultivation remained at the peak of the 9-star Do King. Only one step away is enough to break through the realm of Emperor Do. At the same time, the energy inside the ancient river was finally absorbed. Slowly opening his eyes, Guhi's eyes flashed with excitement. 9-star Fighting King. In just a moment, I jumped from being a 3-star Dowang to becoming a peak powerhouse of the 9-star Dowang. This feeling is really sour and refreshing. Feeling the powerful power belonging to the 9-star Fighting King in his body, Guhi unconsciously smiled with confidence at the corner of his mouth. At this pace, it won't be long before I can break through the realm of Emperor Do. Having read the original work thoroughly, he naturally understood in his heart. Only by stepping into the realm of Emperor Do can one be considered to have a trace of self-protection in this world full of powerful individuals. With my current strength as the 9-star Fighting King and the help of the system, I should be able to merge the 9U flame. After a moment of contemplation, Guhi spoke lightly and said, "System, extract the 9 dark flames." As Guhi's words fell, the purple flame in the system space turned into a purple light and instantly penetrated into Guhi's body. As Joyo flame entered his body, Guhi suddenly felt as if he had been struck by lightning, and his face turned pale in an instant. A scorching sensation instantly rose within the body. Drops of sweat instantly rolled down Guha's forehead, and he felt his flesh and blood constantly twitching. Accompanied by this heart-wrenching pain, Joyo flame was gradually refined by the ancient river. It took an unknown amount of time before the pain inside the ancient river slowly dissipated. At this moment, Guhi slowly opened his eyes, and a purple light flashed through his pitch-black eyes. Guhi slowly extended his right hand and with a thought, a purple flame instantly rose up. Looking at the purple 9 yen in his hand, Guhi's mouth showed a satisfied smile. Next, it's the Emperor's turn to practice the soul-devouring technique. After getting excited, Guhi gradually calmed down and slowly turned his gaze to the black scroll in the system space. End of this chapter. Chapter 5, Inheriting the Soul-Devouring Technique, Yunyun visits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Inheriting the Soul-Devouring Technique, Yunyun visits. Does the host accept the inheritance of the soul-devouring technique? As Guhi's consciousness came into contact with the black scroll, the system's prompt sound sounded. Accept. Without hesitation, Guhi made a direct choice. In the next moment, Guhi felt a little dizzy in his mind, as countless pieces of information rushed in. Countless streams of information are like a sharp blade cutting open one's own head in blood, surging into the depths of one's mind. With his eyes tightly closed, Guhi's mind was slightly frozen, immersed in the countless streams of information. After a long time, there was a slight cold sweat on Guhi's eyelashes, and a burst of joy suddenly spread at the corner of Guhi's mouth. Until the end, Guhi's chest was rapidly heaving, indicating that his mood was particularly excited at this moment. Immersed in the mysterious information in his mind, Guhi remained motionless until 3 hours later when he finally opened his eyes, his pitch-black eyes filled with excitement. The soul-devouring technique can actually directly devour the souls of others, thereby enhancing soul power. Recalling the content of the soul-devouring technique in his mind, Guhi's eyes showed excitement. Not only that, using the soul-devouring technique to devour others' souls can also check the memories in the soul. This kind of ability is really terrifying. Guhi thought about the supernatural effect of the soul-devouring technique in his heart, and couldn't help but sigh that this soul-devouring technique is truly an imperial skill. For alchemists, the most important thing is to cultivate soul power. Compared to cultivating fighting spirit, the cultivation of soul power is more difficult. And as we progress further, it becomes even more difficult to improve our soul power. This is also the reason why there are very few high-level alchemists on the Douqi Continent. And now Guhi has mastered the Emperor's soul-devouring technique, which only requires devouring the souls of others to directly enhance his own soul power. For other alchemists, this is like cheating. After a long time, the excitement in Guhi's heart slowly subsided, and a hint of contemplation flashed in his eyes. Although the soul-devouring technique has terrifying power, it must not be used openly. Once this strange and abnormal technique is exposed, even as a 6th-grade alchemist, Guhi may not be able to protect himself. Therefore, in the future, Guhi must be cautious when using the soul-devouring technique. Let's first stabilize our cultivation. Thinking of the significant increase in cultivation just now, Guhi was worried that his foundation might become unstable in the future, so he immediately returned to his bedroom to prepare for a moment of rest. Elder Guha. Just as Guhi had just returned to his bedroom and was about to go to bed to rest, a crisp and beautiful sound like pearls falling on a jade plate suddenly sounded from outside the alchemy room. Upon hearing this sound, Guhi was momentarily taken aback, and then a graceful and noble figure flashed through his mind. Yunyun. What is she doing here? Formerly a pursuer of Yunyun, the memory left by Guhi is very profound. At this moment, the latter can also immediately hear the voices outside, which is the leader of Yunlan sect, Yunyun. Could it be that during the breakthrough just now, the breath leaked out and Yunyun noticed it? Guhi thought of this possibility in his mind. It shouldn't be. According to Guhi's idea, even if the furnace explodes during alchemy in the alchemy room, it will not have any impact on the outside world, and there is no reason why his breakthrough breath will be released. I was puzzled in my heart, but Guhi dared not neglect the Yunyun outside. After all, the other party is at least the leader of Yunlan's sect, and also a powerful fighter against the Emperor. Squeak. Guhi slowly stood up and quickly opened the door, saying. Suddenly, a blue figure caught the eye of the ancient river. Even though he had already accepted the memories of his predecessor and had a deep impression of the woman's appearance in his mind, seeing it with his own eyes at this moment still couldn't help but flash a hint of amazement in Guhi's eyes. I saw the woman in front of me wrapped in a plain dress with a plump and delicate body, and a blue silk was tied up into a noble phoenix hair accessory. Her beautiful and charming appearance was calm and tranquil, but it revealed a touch of elegance and nobility that was difficult to conceal in plain clothes. The woman was dressed in white clothes and a white skirt, with 3,000 green threads as black as ink cascading down like a waterfall, hanging down to her slender waist. Her stunning appearance was like a fairy in the mountains who did not ask about common things. Filled with a captivating ethereal aura, with flowing eyes, what they possess is only the gentle breeze that seeps into the bone marrow, without any competitiveness. Of course, What attracts Gu He's attention the most is that she has two profound truths. Looking at the peerless beauty in front of him, four words flashed through Gu He's mind. Bo Tao. Ah Ba. Unparalleled glory. As Gu He looked at Yunyun, Yunyun's beautiful eyes were also scrutinizing Gu He. Elder Gu He, why do you feel a bit different from before? Looking at the handsome and extraordinary ancient river, Yunyun couldn't help but feel a ripple in her heart. Elder Gu He, what's wrong with you? Later, Yunyun saw Gu He's gaze staring straight at her, and her willow eyebrows furrowed slightly. A hint of dissatisfaction flashed in her bright eyes. Upon hearing this, Gu He immediately woke up, with a hint of embarrassment in his eyes. Mad, this is really embarrassing. Cough. With a light cough, Gu He slightly concealed his embarrassment. His gaze slowly turned to Yunyun in front of him and he whispered, Master Yun personally came to the door. What's going on? Seeing Gu He's gaze retracted, Yunyun's expression softened slightly as she thought about her purpose of coming here. Her red lips slightly parted and she said, Elder Gu He, this time I'm here to ask Elder to help me refine a gathering chi powder. After speaking, Yunyun extended her jade hand and revealed a ring in her palm. Here are 2 ingredients for refining gathering chi powder, please Elder Gu He. Upon hearing this, Gu He hesitated slightly and said, refining Douqi powder? This woman originally came to seek Dan. Wait. Gathering chi and dispersing. Suddenly, Gu He seemed to have remembered something, and a thought came to his mind. Is it? In order to verify his conjecture, Gu He smiled slightly and said with a probing tone, Master, the function of gathering chi and dispersing chi is to enable a 9 Dan Do chi to successfully condense Do cyclones 100%. I remember that Yenron's girl has already broken through the breakthrough fighter, why? After speaking, Gu He looked at Yunyun with a hint of doubt. Upon hearing this, Yunyun felt slightly dissatisfied and felt that the ancient river in front of her was meddling in some matters. But thinking about the other party's contributions to the Yunlan sect over the years, Yunyun hesitated for a moment before speaking up and explaining, you know, Yen Ran still has a marriage contract with her, and her fiancé A is just a useless third-degree fighter. Yen Ran does not approve of this marriage and wants to go to Wutan City to withdraw. The matter of divorce, although somewhat inappropriate, I support Yenran's approach in order to cultivate with peace of mind in the future. This gathering chi powder should be considered as compensation for that young man, Yunyun said with a hint of apology in her tone. After all, regarding the matter of withdrawing from marriage, Yunlanzong was also considered to have bullied others and done a disgraceful job. Sure enough. After listening to what Yunyun said, Gu He suddenly understood everything. My own chi gathering powder was refined for Xiao Yen. Not long after, Nailan Yenran will take this Douqi powder and forcefully withdraw from the Xiao family in Wutan City. The storyline of breaking through the sky will also begin with Nailan Yenran's divorce. Due to Nailan Yenran's strong withdrawal, it gave Xiao Yen the motivation to become stronger and ultimately shattered the conspiracy of the Soul Heavenly Emperor. Perhaps the Soul Heavenly Emperor did not expect that the reason for his failure came from Nailan Yenran's divorce. End of this chapter. Chapter 6, The Shock of Yunyun. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6, The Shock of Yunyun. I see. After listening to Yunyun's words, Gu He made a sudden realization. Then he thought deeply and said, actually, I don't really agree with Yen Ran's engagement with Xiao Yen. After all, Yen Ran will continue to serve as the head of Yunlan's sect in the future. Xiao Yen is just a useless third-level fighter, how can he match Yen Ran's girl? Does Elder Gu He also think so? Upon hearing this, Yunyun's bright eyes lit up, and a hint of a smile appeared on her pretty face. Originally, she had always harbored apologies for her divorce. But after listening to Gu He's words, Yunyun suddenly felt that she didn't seem to have done anything wrong. Xiao Yen is not worthy of his precious disciple. That's nature. Gu He nodded slightly and said slowly, Yen Ran, that girl, is also someone I've watched grow up with. I don't want her to ruin her bright future just because of a marriage contract. Since that's the case, the matter of withdrawing from the marriage should not be delayed. This gathering of qi will trouble Elder Gu He. Perhaps it was because Gu He had just made a statement that hit Yunyun's heart. When Yunyun looked at Gu He, there was always a bright smile on her pretty face. Looking at the smile on Yunyun's face, Gu He couldn't help but feel a slight sway in his heart. No wonder my predecessor was so obsessed with Yunyun. Even if it were me, I couldn't stop it. Yen Ran, that girl, is also considered my junior, and refining Douqi powder is also my responsibility. Quickly regaining his senses, Gu He smiled and said. As he spoke, he reached out and took the ring from Yunyun's palm. Elder Gu He has intentions. I will tell that girl about your kindness to Yen Ran. Yunyun smiled at the corner of her mouth. Since that's the case, I'll come back tomorrow to take Douqi powder. Speaking, Yunyun slowly turned around and wanted to leave. Master, wait a moment. Just gathering and dispersing qi, why wait until tomorrow? With a hint of confidence on his face, Gu He said seriously. Yen Ran's withdrawal from marriage should be done sooner rather than later. I'll start refining this gathering qi powder now. Upon hearing this, Yunyun was slightly taken aback, then nodded and said, It's okay. Please kindly ask the sect leader to wait here for a moment. Gu He nodded at Yunyun and prepared to walk towards the alchemy room, holding the ring. Elder Guha, can I help you? After hesitating for a moment, Yunyun's red lips parted slightly, facing the ancient river channel. Seeing Gu He looking over, Yunyun felt a bit embarrassed and said, The matter of getting married is a lifelong matter for Yen Ran. As a teacher, I naturally need to contribute a bit. Upon hearing this, Gu He was slightly taken aback and immediately nodded, saying, Since that's the case, please come with me, Patriarch. Nodding, Yunyunlian walked lightly and followed Gu He slowly into the alchemy room. Inside the room, a red medicine cauldron standing about half a meter tall stands in the center of the room. The medicine cauldron is dark red in color, with a slight hint of light on it. Below the medicine cauldron, 4 ferocious snake heads are carved. The large snake mouth forms 4 interconnected fire holes, which are curved and continuous. The deeper they go inside, the smaller the diameter. When viewed faintly, it seems to contain mysteries. At the top of the medicinal cauldron, a giant snake coiled around it, forming a dark red cauldron cover. In one part of the cauldron cover, there is also a special hole, which is a place specifically for adding medicinal herbs. On the lid of the tripod, there are some fine holes made of ice silver scattered, which have the effect of heat dissipation to prevent high temperatures from causing furnace explosions. In the middle of the medicine cauldron, a transparent mirror made of cold ice essence is placed. From here, you can clearly see all the movements inside while refining the medicine. The surface of the medicine cauldron is painted with beautiful warcraft carvings, lifelike in appearance, like living creatures. This medicinal cauldron, named the Red Snake Cauldron, is a 4-mouthed cauldron. A medicine cauldron is the most important thing in the hands of an alchemist. A good medicine cauldron can greatly improve the success rate of alchemy. Gu He remembers that in the original work, it was mentioned that in the world of medicine refining, in addition to the abnormal fire list, there is also a heavenly cauldron list. As the name suggests, what is recorded in the Ding Bang are those extremely perfect and outstanding medicinal cauldrons. Among the tripod lists, there are a total of 13 tripods, each of which has a magical power that attracts countless alchemists. Although the Red Snake Cauldron in Gu He's hand is not as good as the famous cauldron on the Heavenly Cauldron list, it is much better than the ordinary medicine cauldron. Looking at the medicine cauldron in front of him, Gu He suddenly realized that his good disciple seemed to lack a good medicine cauldron. Well, let's give this medicine cauldron to the good disciple next month. Thinking in his heart, Gu He looked at Yunyun who was following him, and then took out a fan from the Na ring and handed it to Yunyun. Pufan is made from an unknown bird feather, covered in golden patterns, and looks very exquisite. Why did Elder Guha give me this fan? Yunyun subconsciously took the golden fan in Guhi's hand, not understanding its purpose. Guhi looked at Yunyun and chuckled lightly, Master, if you really want to help, why don't you fan me twice? It's quite hot in this alchemy room. Upon hearing this, Yunyun stared blankly at Guhi, slightly opening her red lips and exclaiming in amazement, Do you want me to fan you? Why, unwilling. Then the sect leader should go out first. Upon hearing this, Guhi said nonchalantly, Refining a single qi gathering powder is enough for one person in ancient times, without the need for assistance from others. As he spoke, Guhi took out the materials used to refine qi gathering powder from the na-ring and placed them on a nearby table. Upon hearing this, Yunyun was stunned for a moment. Seeing Guhi's serious expression, she hesitated for a moment. Finally, she put down the leader's airs and began to fan Guhi slightly with a golden fan. Feeling the cool breeze coming from behind, Guhi felt a sense of relief in his heart. The leader of Yunlan's sect personally fanned himself, and this treatment is truly indescribable. Subsequently, Guhi slightly restrained his mind and extended his palm, and a purple flame suddenly rose up in his palm. As purple flames appeared, the temperature in the entire room suddenly increased. This, purple flame. Feeling something unusual in the room, Yunyun couldn't help but look at the purple flame in Guhi's hand, with a hint of shock flashing in her beautiful eyes. This is a strange fire. Although Yunyun is not an alchemist, she still recognizes the strange thing of the world, the strange fire. When did Elder Guha receive a strange fire? With seductive red lips slightly open, Yunyun's gaze lingered on Guhi, and a hint of doubt arose in her heart. At this moment, Guhi had already focused his mind on refining medicine and did not notice any change in Yunyun's expression behind him. At the next moment, Guhi's palm swung rapidly on the table. Plants of medicinal herbs were grabbed by him, and then all of them were thrown into the medicine cauldron. As his palm left the medicine cauldron, Guhi's face remained calm, and his fair palm suddenly swung rapidly like picking flowers and leaves. With the flick of his fingertips, the scorching purple flames inside the red snake cauldron obediently transformed into a dozen or so small flames, enveloping the medicinal herbs that had been poured in. Looking at the flowing clouds and water of the ancient river, as if it were a natural movement, Yunyun's beautiful eyes were filled with surprise. After the transformation of the exiled immortal temperament, every movement of the ancient river at this moment is so natural and pleasing to the eye in Yunyun's eyes. End of this chapter. Chapter 7, Yunyun's heartbeat accelerates. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7, Yunyun's heartbeat accelerates. I didn't realize before that Elder Guha was so handsome. Her beautiful eyes stared blankly at Guhi who was refining pills, and Yunyun suddenly had such thoughts in her heart. Oh, Yunyun, what are you overthinking? The accompanying reserved demeanor made Yunyun feel a bit shy, and a hint of blush appeared on her pretty face. After taking a look, Yunyun breathed a sigh of relief as she saw that he was focused on alchemy and did not notice anything unusual about herself just now. I lost my life. My sect leader has actually committed a flower obsession. With a slight concentration, Yunyun held a golden fan in her hand and focused on fanning the ancient river. In the quiet alchemy room, purple flames danced enchantingly. As time passed, a faint medicinal fragrance permeated it. The crimson medicine cauldron slowly rotated in mid-air, and purple flames churned violently in it. As the red tripod rotates, the surrounding space also continuously emits waves of small energy ripples. These energy ripples are centered around the medicine cauldron, forming a circular shape and gradually spreading out in all directions. Within the boiling cauldron of flames, a light blue pill prototype the size of a thumb slowly takes shape during the burning of flames. At a certain moment, a deep purple fragrance suddenly emanated from the cauldron and permeated the room, lingering for a long time. The purple flame only rose in the blink of an eye, then quickly disappeared. As the flames extinguished, a round pill, the size of a thumb, with a pale purple color and a faint luster, appeared inside the medicine cauldron, spinning and dripping. Are you going to become a pill? Sniffing at the faint blue dan fragrance, Yunyun's beautiful eyes lit up. He slapped the red snake cauldron, and immediately the pale blue pill in the cauldron was spewed out by the red cauldron and landed steadily in Guhi's palm. Subsequently, Guhi took out a jade bottle from the na ring and directly filled it with Ju Chi San. After finishing all of this, Guhi turned around and looked at Yunyun. Master, Gu is fortunate enough to not disappoint his fate. The gathering chi powder has already been refined. After speaking, Guhi handed the jade bottle in his hand to Yunyun. Looking at Yunyun's rosy cheeks, Guhi exclaimed in surprise. Master, why is your face so red? Subsequently, Guhi instinctively reached out to explore the smooth forehead of Tan Yunyun. I don't have a fever. When Guhi touched Yunyun's forehead, Yunyun's expression suddenly froze. The icy and cool touch seemed to sweep across Yunyun's entire body, causing her heart rate to suddenly accelerate. Master, are you okay? And Yunyun's face seemed to be getting redder and redder, and Guhi suddenly asked with some concern. Upon hearing this, Yunyun suddenly regained her senses and shook her head in a panic. She whispered, I'm fine, maybe it's too hot in the alchemy room. Let's go out first. Speaking, Yunyun's gaze dared not even confront Guhi, and she left the alchemy room first. Until a cool breeze struck, the strange emotions in Yunyun's heart slowly calmed down. How do you feel that the sect leader is a bit strange? Watching Yunyun flee, Guhi murmured to himself. Shaking his head, Guhi took the jade bottle and left the alchemy room with Yunyun. Master, give. Arriving at Yunyun, Guhi handed him the jade vase. Elder Guha, thank you very much this time. Extending her jade hand, she slowly took the jade bottle and Yunyun smiled lightly. It's just a matter of duty, not worth mentioning. Upon hearing this, Guhi smiled faintly. As an honorary elder of the Yunlan sect, he is responsible for alchemy. Upon hearing this, Yunyun smiled slightly and said, Elder Guha, I will bid farewell first. Master, take your time, Gu won't deliver, Guhi nodded and said. After Yunyun left, Guhi's eyes showed a look of contemplation. It seems that Xiao Yan is about to face his divorce soon, and the plot of the battle is about to officially begin. 3 years later, Xiao Yan will directly attack Yunlan's sect. That is to say, there is not much time left for oneself. In these 3 years, I must improve my strength as soon as possible. For him who has an apprenticeship system, the quickest way to become stronger is naturally to accept apprentices. However, according to the system requirements, the disciples received by Guha must reach an 8-point rating. This forces Guhi to accept talented disciples. Where are there so many geniuses to let Guhi collect it? Thinking of this, Guhi began to review the plot in the original work. Firstly, the protagonist Xiao Yan is definitely a genius. But Guhi didn't hesitate to pass him. Jokes. What did Xiao Yan do to oneself in the original work? Taking Xiao Yan as his disciple, Guhi couldn't do it. Then, Guhi thought of the little doctor Immortal in Qingshan town. With a body full of calamity and poison, there is no doubt about the talent of the little doctor Immortal, who has definitely reached an 8-point rating. Later, Guhi thought of Qinglian, who had a snake-like bloodline. Qinglian has blue eyes and 3-colored pupils, with unlimited potential for the future, which can definitely reach the system's 8-point rating. In the original work, it seems that only these 2 geniuses appeared within the Gamma Empire. Guhi stood in place and pondered for a moment before making a decision in his heart. He's going down the mountain to recruit disciples. For today's plan, if he wants to quickly become stronger, he can only go down the mountain to recruit his disciples. Maybe there will be unexpected discoveries and encountering other geniuses. Thinking of this, Guhi began preparing daily necessities for going down the mountain. The next morning, the white mist shrouded the entire sky of Yunlan's sect, looking like a blessed land of immortals. In the next moment, a white figure flew out directly from the gate of Yunlan's sect. Red wings extend from behind the ancient river, heading straight towards the Warcraft Mountains. In the depths of Yunlan's sect, above an attic, Yunyun looked at the departing white figure, with a hint of doubt flashing in her beautiful eyes. Why did Elder Guha leave the sect? End of this chapter. Chapter 8, Little Doctor Immortal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8, Little Doctor Immortal. The Warcraft Mountains are the largest mountain range in the Gamma Empire. Around the Warcraft Mountains, there are small towns of all sizes. And Qingshan Town is the town closest to the Warcraft Mountains. The largest group of people in the small town are naturally mercenaries who lick their blood at the edge of the knife all day long. They formed groups, holding each other's arms and frolicking on the street, discussing without restraint where women tasted the most, where wine was the strongest, and where Warcraft was the most ferocious. On both sides of the street, there are many shops, and due to the favorable location of Qingshan Town, it is quite popular. At this moment, a slight disturbance suddenly appeared on the bustling street. Get out of the way. Make way for labor and management. A mercenary man was running wildly on the street with a companion on his back, roaring loudly, and many pedestrians were rudely pushed aside by him. The rough face of the big man had a deep scar, and the mercenary uniform was stained with a lot of blood. Coupled with a fierce and evil face, it looked like a demon. Some passers-by were hit by a strong man, and a hint of dissatisfaction appeared on their faces. However, when they turned around, they saw that the man had a fierce expression on his face, which was clearly not easy to provoke. They immediately made way for him honestly. Grass, hurry to reincarnate. When the strong man walked away, he suddenly cursed with unwillingness. Keep your voice down, that's the Dragon and Tiger brothers. A passerby nearby seemed to know a strong man and whispered a reminder. What, they are the Dragon and Tiger brothers. Upon hearing this, the passers-by who had just looked unhappy changed their expression, as if they were somewhat wary of the Dragon and Tiger brothers. Dragon and Tiger brothers, a very special mercenary group in Qingshan Town, because there are only two people in the mercenary group. Lin Long, Lin Hu. The two are brothers, united and possessing the strength of a 5-star fighter. In this Qingshan Town, few people dare to provoke these two brothers. That person just now was Lin Hu, right? Is that his big brother on his back? Lin Long. His face seems to have turned a bit purple, probably poisoned. Judging from Lin Hu's nervous demeanor, it's estimated that this poison is very potent. In the end, some passers-by recognized his identity and immediately whispered about it. However, there was no expression of pity or sympathy on their faces. This is not that they are naturally cold-blooded, but as mercenaries, they live a life of licking blood at the edge of the knife. This kind of thing is already a common occurrence for them, and there is nothing to sympathize with or regret. The Scar Hero, also known as Lin Hu among the crowd, ran wildly on his back and finally stopped at the entrance of the so-called 10,000 Medicine Studio. Little Doctor Immortal. Little Doctor Immortal. Help my big brother quickly. As soon as he arrived at the entrance of Wanyao Studio, Lin Hu put down his elder brother and shouted directly at Wanyao Studio. Here we go. After the big Han shouted 5 or 6 times, a light and agile voice rang out from inside the 10,000 Medicine Studio. The next moment, a white-clad girl slowly emerged from behind the Wanyao Studio. The girl in white is wearing a light white dress. Although her appearance may not be stunning, she can still be said to be a rare beauty. The indifferent smile on her cheeks exuded a fresh and ethereal aura, which immediately greatly enhanced the charm of the woman. On the willow waist of the white-clothed girl, which was not yet fully grasped, a green belt was tied, perfectly showcasing the slender and delicate waist. This white-clad girl is naturally the little medical fairy that Lin Hu calls out for. Xiao Yixian, please save my big brother. I beg you. Seeing the little medical fairy come out, Lin Hu seemed to grab a life-saving straw and knelt down in front of her with a thud, begging. In front of the little Dr. Immortal, he completely lost his fierce appearance before, and only had his younger brother's concern for his elder brother. You get up first, I need to see the injured first. The gentle voice of the little doctor sounded, calming Lin Hu's panicked mind a little. Yes, let's first look at my big brother. Immediately, Lin Hu brought the little medical fairy to the side of his elder brother Lin Long. Is he poisoned? Xiao Yixian approached Lin Long's body with a serious expression, and as he looked at his dark face, his pretty face suddenly changed. Subsequently, the little doctor reached out his jade hand and examined Lin Long's wound. He's a snake venom from China. Subsequently, the little doctor turned to look at Lin Hu with an anxious expression and said seriously, what kind of venomous snake bit him? Upon hearing this, Lin Hu's rough face froze for a moment, and a confused expression immediately appeared. That snake's speed was extremely fast, and I didn't see it clearly. I only remember there were black and white colors. After my older brother was bitten, he fainted inside. Lin Hu's face showed a fierce expression. If something happens to his elder brother, he must kill that snake. Black and white colors. Upon hearing this, the little Dr. Fairy's eyebrows furrowed, and she immediately thought of something. Her pretty face changed and she said, oh no, it's highly likely that your brother's poison is mandala snake venom. What, it's mandala snake venom? Upon hearing the words of the little Dr. Immortal, Lin Hu's rough face suddenly changed, with a hint of despair in his eyes. As a seasoned mercenary, although he had never seen a mandala snake, he had also heard of the reputation of mandala snake venom. The mandala snake is a second-order monster with extremely venomous snake venom inside. After being bitten, it is almost incurable. I didn't expect him to be poisoned by mandala snake venom. The mandala snake venom is extremely poisonous, and this person may not be able to survive. The staff of the Wanyao studio on the side heard the words of the little Dr. Fairy and immediately looked at Lin Long lying on the ground with some pity, as if looking at a dead person. Xiao Yixian, I beg you to save my big brother. You are a divine doctor with excellent medical skills. You must have a way, right? Little doctor, I beg you. Suddenly, Lin Hu looked at the little medical fairy in front of him and went crazy, kowtowing fiercely to her. Don't do this. Upon seeing this scene, the little Dr. Fairy's pretty face changed slightly, and a hint of reluctance flashed in her beautiful eyes. She hesitated and said, there is only one way to cure the mandala snake venom. What's the solution? Upon hearing this, Lin Hu immediately lifted his head and, disregarding the blood on his forehead, quickly pursued him. Mandala snake bile. The little Dr. Immortal looked at Lin Hu with an extremely serious expression and said, only mandala snake bile can detoxify mandala snake venom. Mandala snake bile. Lin Hu was taken aback by the words, and a hint of determination flashed in his eyes. He said, I'll go get the snake bile. As he spoke, he had to get up and leave. You only have 3 hours. Xiao Yixian reminded, the venom of the mandala snake is extremely fierce. I can only try my best to suppress it for 3 hours. You must retrieve the snake bile within 3 hours. 3 hours. Lin Hu muttered and glanced at the unconscious elder brother on the ground, then left directly and headed towards the Warcraft mountain range. Watching Lin Hu's departure, there was a moment of silence in the hearts of the people in the medicine studio. The mandala snake is a second-order monster, and with the strength of Lin Hu, even if he finds the mandala snake, he will not be killed in vain. End of this chapter. Chapter 9, Is Sir a Medicine Refiner? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9, Is Sir a Medicine Refiner? After Lin Hu left, the little Dr. Immortal took out a jade bottle from his arms and poured out a pill from inside for Lin Long to take. As Danwang entered Lin Long's body, his face slightly improved. However, above the pretty face of the little Dr. Fairy, there was still a worried expression on her face. She knew that her antidote could only temporarily suppress the toxicity inside Lin Long's body. After 3 hours, the mandala snake venom will continue to erupt. At that time, even his detoxification pills would not work. Ah, I wish I were an alchemist. With the ability of an alchemist, one can definitely unlock the venom of mandala snakes. Thinking of the alchemist, a faint moment of silence flashed in the beautiful eyes of the little medical immortal. She has been pursuing the path of refining medicine since childhood, but has never been able to get started. Therefore, she knew in her heart how difficult it was to become an alchemist. With a sigh, the little medical fairy slowly stood up. Now, the only hope is to rely on Lin Hu to obtain mandala snake bile. But she also knew in her heart how hopeless this hope was. With the strength of the Lin Hu 5-star fighter, how can we obtain the second-level demon beast, the snake gallbladder of the mandala snake? As time slowly passed, everyone in the medicine studio looked at Lin Long lying on the ground, and the atmosphere gradually became suppressed. Half an hour left. The little doctor looked at the sky and murmured in his heart. She watched as Lin Long's face turned black again and shook her head helplessly. As a doctor, watching a patient die in front of him, little Dr. Xian felt extremely uncomfortable in his heart. If only I could become an alchemist myself. Not long after, 3 hours were approaching. Xiao Yixian looked out with beautiful eyes, hoping to see the figure of Lin Hu. But to her disappointment, Lin Hu's figure did not appear. Arriving by Lin Long's side, the little doctor reached out his jade hand to examine and found that the venom of the mandala snake was spreading towards his limbs and bones. Is it hopeless? A hint of sadness flashed in her beautiful eyes, and the little doctor sighed faintly. Hee, it seems that I came at the right time. At this moment, a clear voice sounded at the entrance of the Wanyao Zhai. Upon hearing the sound, the beautiful eyes of the little doctor couldn't help but look over. I saw a man in white appear at the entrance of the 10,000 medicine studio at some point. And when the little Dr. Fairy's gaze saw the face of the man in white, her pretty face couldn't help but feel a bit dull. Just because the temperament of this man in white is too extraordinary, not only is his handsome and unparalleled face like an exiled immortal, but his pair of deep, starry black eyes are also fascinating. While Xiao Yixian was looking at the ancient river, the man in white was also looking at Xiao Yixian. Is this the little Dr. Immortal? As described in the book. Looking at the sweet face of the little Dr. Fairy, the man in white sighed in his heart. May I ask how this gentleman is addressed? After staring blankly at the man in white for a moment, the little medical immortal slowly regained his senses and looked at the man in front of him. A hint of brilliance flashed in his beautiful eyes, and he asked softly. My surname is Gu, the man in white said in a clear voice. This middle-aged man is naturally the ancient river. On that day, after a 3-day flight from Yunlan sect, Gu he finally arrived at Qingshan town. Surname Gu. I don't know what Mr. Gu just said, what does it mean? The little doctor couldn't help but wonder when he thought of what the man in front of him had just said. What I mean is, I can detoxify the mandala snake venom. Gu he fixed his gaze on the little Dr. Fairy, his mouth curved upwards, and he said with a gentle smile on his face. Mr. Gu is also a doctor. Upon hearing this, the little doctor's beautiful eyes lit up and he said with surprise on his face. Upon hearing this, Gu he was taken aback and immediately nodded. Gu is also considered a physician, isn't he? Physicians are already part of the alchemist community. However, compared to a true alchemist, their status is vastly different. After all, they cannot truly refine elixirs, and can only use some ordinary flames to mix herbs together to achieve the effect of treating others. However, compared to alchemists, this is much worse, so every doctor dreams of becoming an alchemist. However, many people spend their entire lives struggling to reach that threshold. Ultimately, it is mainly due to one's own talent and lack of leadership. Since the gentleman can detoxify the mandala snake, could you please take action to save it? If it's too late, it won't be too late. At this moment, the little doctor remembered Lin Long on the ground and quickly pleaded with Gu He. He, it's just mandala snake venom. What's the difficulty? Gu He smiled slightly and walked up to Lin Long. He then took out a jade bottle from somewhere and poured out a pill from inside, slowly administering it to Lin Long. Mr. Gu, what kind of pill is this? Xiao Yixian looked at the pill in Gu He's hand just now, which seemed to have several significant differences from the pill he had refined. His beautiful eyes couldn't help but brighten, and he asked curiously. It's just an extremely ordinary detoxification pill, Gu He said casually with a slight smile. What he just gave Lin Long was a second-grade antidote pill. For Gu He, a sixth-grade alchemist, second-grade pills are indeed very ordinary pills. Just a regular detoxification pill. Upon hearing this, a hint of doubt flashed in the eyes of the little medical immortal. Can ordinary detoxifying pills really detoxify mandala snake venom? Thinking of this, the little medical fairy's gaze quickly turned to Lin Long, observing whether there was any change in his body. But in the next moment, a hint of surprise flashed in the beautiful eyes of the little doctor. It was not long after Lin Long took the pill that the dark color on his face began to slowly fade away. This indicates that the mandala snake venom in Lin Long's body is slowly subsiding. The little Dr. Fairy's beautiful eyes widened, her seductive red lips slightly parted, and her pretty face was filled with a look of surprise. Mandala snake venom, how could it really be solved like this? Is this Mr. Gu's medical skills too advanced? The rest of the staff watched the scene of the Wanyaozhai plant, also looking at Gu He with admiration. This Mr. Gu is actually able to detoxify the mandala snake venom. After another moment, Lin Long's face began to return to normal at a speed visible to the naked eye. The little Dr. Immortal approached to examine, and a sweet smile appeared on his pretty face. The snake venom on his body has been completely eliminated, he said. Subsequently, the little doctor looked at Gu He with beautiful eyes and chuckled softly. Thanks to Mr. Gu's spiritual pill, we were able to detoxify the mandala snake venom. On behalf of Wanyaozhai, I thank Mr. Gu. Lin Long is a patient from the 10,000 Medicine Studio. Now that Gu He has cured the patient, Xiao Yixian believes that he should thank him. It's just a second-grade pill, it's not worth mentioning, Gu He chuckled lightly as if he didn't care much. Second-grade pill. Can you hear Gu He's unintentional words, but little Dr. Xian's pretty face changed. Sir, is it a alchemist? P.S. I have something to do these past few days, and the updates have been quite slow. I will start updating normally tomorrow, at least twice a day. If readers have tickets, please support me. End of this chapter. Chapter 10, The Thoughts of the Little Doctor Immortal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10, The Thoughts of the Little Doctor Immortal. Sir, is he a alchemist? The little doctor's beautiful eyes flickered, and he asked with some anticipation. Gu He didn't answer, just nodded with a smile. He's really a alchemist. Seeing Gu He nodding and admitting, a surprised expression appeared on the pretty face of the little Doctor Immortal. Her greatest wish is to become an alchemist. But I have been struggling with not having the opportunity to interact with alchemists. After all, the small town of Qingshan and the esteemed alchemist, how could they come here? The beautiful eyes of the little doctor were filled with excitement, wanting to approach and inquire, but also afraid of being a bit abrupt. Although she had never seen a real alchemist, she had also heard a lot about alchemists from other mercenaries. Legend has it that alchemists are towering beings, very proud, and ordinary people find it difficult to deal with them. Perhaps Mr. Gu is an exception. The little doctor looked at Gu He and thought to himself. After all, looking at the clear smile on Gu He's face and the handsome face of Ria Junlang, it really attracts people to get closer. Such a person should be different from other alchemists. Upon hearing the conversation between Gu He and Xiao Yixian, the staff at the nearby Wanyaozhai also showed a look of shock on their faces. This gentleman is actually an alchemist. Everyone looked at the elegant and easygoing ancient river, with a hint of respect in their eyes. In their hearts, the status of an alchemist is extremely noble. Moreover, he can also produce second-grade pills, so this gentleman is at least a second-grade alchemist. Thinking of this, everyone looked at the elegant ancient river and worshipped it like a deity. Big brother! Big brother! At this moment, outside the medicine studio, there were several shouts with a hint of sadness in their voices. Subsequently, a disheveled figure appeared at the entrance of the 10,000 medicine studio, which was Lin who had left earlier. At this moment, Lin Hu's rough face was filled with sadness, and his tiger eyes were filled with tears as he suddenly pounced on Lin Long on the ground. Big brother, I'm sorry for you. I'm useless. 3 hours have passed, and Lin Hu only thought that his elder brother had died from poisoning. A smile appeared on the pretty face of the little doctor and he whispered, "Your big brother is fine now." Upon hearing this, Lin Hu's expression froze for a moment, and he immediately turned his gaze to Lin Long's restored normal expression, with a look of surprise in his eyes. Has the snake venom on my older brother been detoxified? Lin Hu excitedly examined the injuries on Lin Long's body and confirmed that the snake venom on his elder brother had been detoxified. He quickly knelt in front of the little medical fairy and said gratefully, "Little medical fairy, thank you very much for saving my elder brother's life. I, Lin Hu, am immensely grateful." Lin Long and Lin Hu have been orphans since childhood. The two brothers rely on each other and have a deep brotherly bond. In Lin Hu's heart, saving his elder brother's life is no different from saving his own life. Seeing Lin Hu suddenly kneeling in front of him, the little doctor was startled and immediately showed an embarrassed expression on his pretty face. He quickly explained, "It's not me who saved your big brother, but this Mr. Gu." As he spoke, the little medical fairy's gaze turned to the ancient river on the side. "Mr. Gu." Lin Hu's expression froze for a moment, and his gaze turned to the ancient river beside him in confusion. This person doesn't seem to be from Qingshan town, does he? Did he save my big brother? Seeing Lin Hu stunned, the little medical immortal was afraid that he would offend Gu He. He quickly spoke up and reminded him, "Mr. Gu, he is an alchemist. Your elder brother is taking Mr. Gu's pill to unlock the venom of the mandala snake. Medicine refiner." Upon hearing these words, Lin Hu's heart was shaken. Is this person actually an alchemist? When he realized it, he quickly knelt down in front of Gu He and said respectfully, "Thank you, sir, for saving my big brother's life." Lin Hu is extremely grateful. Gu He smiled slightly and said in a friendly tone, "It's okay. Saving a person's life is better than building a level 7 pagoda. A mere second-grade pill can exchange for a life, which is very cost-effective. Saving a person's life is better than building a level 7 pagoda." Carefully savoring Gu He's words, a glimmer of admiration flashed in the beautiful eyes of the little doctor fairy, as she looked at Gu He with a hint of admiration. It seems that Mr. Gu is really a great person. The arrival of the ancient river has overturned little Dr. Xian's previous understanding of alchemists. It seems that the alchemist is not as towering as the legend suggests, keeping strangers away. Xiao Yixian looked at Gu He's elegant and easygoing posture, and couldn't help but have a bold idea in his heart. "I don't know, can I ask him for leave to refine medicine? Second-grade pill." Upon hearing Gu He's words, Lin Hu was even more shocked in his heart. As a mercenary who often deals with merchants, he naturally understands the value of a second-grade pill. Thinking of this, Lin Hu felt even more grateful for the ancient river in front of him. "Your kindness, sir. My two brothers will never forget it. If there are any orders in the future, my two brothers dare not disobey." Gu He showed a hint of helplessness on his face, which was quite heartfelt. If it weren't for his low strength, he could have considered taking it for his own use. He chuckled lightly and said, "There's no need for that. It's just a second-grade pill. You'd better take your elder brother back first to cultivate well." "Yes, sir." Upon hearing this, Lin, who was taken aback for a moment, and then fiercely kowtowed 3 times to Gu He before leaving the Wanyao studio with his big brother on his back. Mr. Gu, thank you very much for helping me break free from the siege of my 10,000 medicine studio just now. Could you please move in and have a sip of tea in the inner room? After Lin who left, the little doctor's eyes flickered and he approached to invite him. The purpose of Gu He coming here was originally for the sake of little Dr. Immortal, so he naturally wouldn't refuse. He smiled and nodded casually, okay, I happen to be a bit thirsty. Seeing Gu He agree, the little Dr. Fairy's eyes flashed with a hint of joy, and the corner of his mouth slightly raised. He said respectfully, Sir, please come with me. Gu He nodded and then followed Xiao Yixian into the inner room of the 10,000 medicine studio. After entering the inner room, the little medical fairy quickly offered fragrant tea. By the way, I don't know why Mr. came to Qingshan town. Perhaps I can be of help. Perhaps it was because Gu He was more easygoing, so the little doctor bravely asked. He, Gu came to Qingshan town this time mainly to relax and enter the Warcraft mountain range to find some spiritual medicines. Gu He took a sip of fragrant tea and chuckled lightly. The gentleman will be staying in Qingshan town for a while, said Gu He, and the little medical fairy's heart was immediately filled with joy. As long as this Mr. Gu doesn't leave soon, it means there's a chance. Gu He nodded lightly. Sir, I am quite familiar with the outskirts of the Warcraft mountains. If you are looking for a spiritual medicine, I may be able to help. The little doctor's fairy's eyes turned and suggested to Gu He. Oh. Gu He was just looking for opportunities to get in touch with Xiao Yixian more. Her proposal was in line with his intentions, and he pretended to hesitate for a while. Gu He nodded and said, then I'll trouble you. End of this chapter.